This is Steve Ridgel, and as you know, if you've kind of watched this channel, we are at my church at Hillcrest in Abilene. We're selecting elders, overseers, pastors, men to shepherd the church, men to lead the church to heaven. And so, as we're working through that, I thought I'd just say a word. And by the time you see this, by the way, we'll have already nominated. The church will already have called men, and they'll be deciding whether to accept that call. But we're going to talk some about children, because one of the things Scripture says about elders, they need to have believing children. Now, one passage even makes the point a little further. They can't be disobedient, rebellious, that kind of thing. And so there's been a lot of debate about what that means. I've even had people that are so determined that some kind of checklist that when you take all the Scripture together, everybody's going to check off every one of them. And that they say, well, a man can't be an elder until his first child makes the decision to become a Christian and is baptized. And as soon as one does, then he's qualified. I'm not sure that's really the way to look at Scripture. I think all these things it says about elders and what the kind of men they should be. And by the way, Scripture is clear. It's men. Uh, I think we sometimes can overthink or underthink that. Here's the big general picture. When a man's going to shepherd the church, you need to take a quick glimpse at his kids to see the kind of daddy he was. Now, I know all the debates. Well, if they're still at home, can you really know what kind of child it is? So maybe you should wait till they're grown. Or, hey, they grew up and they were faithful all the way up and they all became Christians. Then when they were grown, something happened over time. They left the faith. So are they still believers? What does that mean? And I've heard people argue, no, if you raised them right, they won't leave the faith. And I've heard people argue. It's just hard to. Here's the point about elders and kids. I think if you look at an elder's kids and even his grandkids, his family tree, you'll get a pretty good glimpse of what the church would look like under his leadership. Now, I know there are things, I think especially when we read the Bible, some of those men had not been Christians. They may have been grown. They may have had kids grown when they became Christians, believers, and then became elders at some point. So there's all sorts of things you can debate and discuss, and I don't think you have to be a fifth generation Christian to be an elder. But I do think it does. A man's kids are grown, he becomes an elder. Does he talk to his kids about Jesus? Are they still respectful to him, even if they don't follow him in his spiritual life yet? So there are all sorts of things to talk about. But here, basically, I just tell you, hey, take a look at a man's kids and grandkids. He and his wife. What kind of family fruit are they producing? Are they going to have a bunch of perfect kids and grandkids? Nope, sure aren't. At least I've never known any elders had perfect kids or grandkids. But I do think you can get a feel for, do they believe in Jesus? And I'm going to tell you, if you raised your kids to believe in Jesus, I think they may struggle, they may wonder, they may fall in the ditch, they may come back. They may not read their Bible as much as you want. They may drink more than you want. They may not go to church as much as you want. They may have a job you don't. There's all sorts of things that you might think, boy, if they were really faithful, they wouldn't, or they would. Yep. But the bottom line is, are they believers? Because if a man can't convince his own family to follow Jesus, it's going to be hard to shepherd the church. So I tell you, overall, I think you just take a quick glimpse at his kids and grandkids, and you'll have a pretty good feel for what your church would look like if you asked that man to be your shepherd.